All right, let's dive into some really groundbreaking science that's going to completely reframe how you think about energy, aging, and maybe even life itself. And I mean, forget everything you thought you knew about calories and cellular powerhouses. We're about to go microscopic to understand some truly massive ideas.
So let's just start with a huge question, one that really pushes back on a belief most of us just accept as fact. We see aging as this straight line, right? A slow, inevitable decline. But what if that whole idea is just wrong?
No, you heard that right. That is not a typo. Researchers at Columbia University found something absolutely startling. They saw that a hair that had already turned gray could actually turn back to its original color. Now, look, this isn't really about hair. That gray hair is a clue. It's a signpost pointing to a much, much deeper biological secret. And it forces us to ask, how on earth is that possible? And what does it tell us about the whole process of aging? To solve this mystery, we've got to look at these tiny little engines inside our cells, the mitochondria. You know, back in biology class, we all learned they're the powerhouses of the cell, but it turns out that's a massive oversimplification. The new way of thinking sees them as these incredibly sophisticated energy transformers. They don't just make energy, they direct it, they pattern it. They're kind of like little antennas connecting our life experiences directly to our biology. This also means we have to completely update our definition of energy. It's not just about the calories in your lunch. A much better, more fundamental definition actually comes from physics. Energy is simply the potential for change. See, it's not a thing you have, it's a process, a constant flow that's always transforming. So, how exactly do mitochondria pattern this energy? Okay, think of it like this. The raw energy you get from food is like a steady, unpatterned electrical current. It's just a hum. On its own, it can't really do much. But your mitochondria? They act like a Morse code operator. They take that raw hum and start tapping it out into specific patterned messages. And these messages are the molecules and signals that tell your cells exactly what to do, when to grow, when to repair, when to fight. They're literally creating information out of raw fuel. And all of this leads to a really powerful way to think about your health, the body's energy economy. See, you can't just eat more to get more energy. It doesn't work that way. Every single day, your body is working with a finite energy budget, and it has to make some really tough calls about where to spend it. So, in a healthy, balanced state, your budget looks something like this. You've got a big chunk going to vital costs, keeping your heart beating, brain working, the absolute basics. Then there's a nice, healthy slice left over for growth and repair, which is absolutely crucial for your long-term health. And stress costs are just a small, manageable piece of the pie. But watch what happens when you're under chronic stress. That stress costs slice just balloons, right? It starts demanding a huge part of the budget. But since the total budget is fixed, that energy has to be stolen from somewhere else. And the first department to get its funding cut is that all-important growth and repair fund. That is the biological price of stress. And this explains a feeling we've all had. I mean, have you ever wondered why you feel so totally and completely drained when you're sick? Well, that's your energy economy in action. Your immune system is launching this incredibly expensive defense, and it basically hijacks the entire budget. Your body is smart. It forces you to conserve energy by making you feel exhausted so that all available resources go towards fighting the infection instead of, going for a run. Okay, so this brings us to what might be the most profound part of this whole new model. This connection between our minds and our physical energy, well, it's not some fluffy wellness idea. It is a hardwired biological fact. So just think for a second about your thoughts, your feelings, that sense of purpose you have, all of your subjective psychological experiences. Well, they are being translated moment by moment into tangible, hard biology by your mitochondria. They are the bridge, they are the interface. They're literally listening to your mental state and then changing the flow of energy through your entire body. So the big takeaway here is this: how you think and feel directly changes your health at a cellular level. And hey, there is actual data to back this up. There was this fascinating study that looked at the brain tissue of people after they had passed away, and they compared it to questionnaires they'd filled out about their lives. And the results were just crystal clear. The people who reported having a greater sense of purpose, more connection, and just general well-being, they literally had mitochondria with a higher capacity to produce energy in their brains. How wild is that? So this is all incredibly cool, but what do we actually do with this information?
Let's switch gears and talk about a real action plan based on this whole new way of looking at our energy.
First, I want you to just let this number sink in for a second. 7%. According to the best data we have, only about 7% of your longevity, how long you live, is determined by your genes. That means a staggering 93% is shaped by your lifestyle and your environment. This is so empowering. You are not a victim of your genetic lottery. You are the main architect of your own health. So here are the key principles for taking charge of that 93%. First, prioritize sleep. It's a non-negotiable energy saver, freeing up 10 to 15% of your daily budget. Next, actively manage your stress, because those stress hormones can jack up cellular energy costs by a whopping 60%. Maybe try something like meditation, which in some studies has been shown to lower energy use even more than sleep. For diet, you have to find what makes you feel amazing. There's no one-size-fits-all. And finally, rethink exercise. The goal isn't just to burn calories, it's to send a signal to your body to build more and better mitochondria.
Think about this for a moment. When a person dies, for a brief period, all the physical parts are still there. The heart, the lungs, the cells. The only thing that's actually changed is that the flow of energy has stopped. That one idea changes everything. To be alive is to be a process. It is a constant transformation of energy. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. We usually think of ourselves as static things, as nouns. I am a person. But based on everything we've just talked about, maybe it's a lot more accurate to think of ourselves as verbs. We aren't a thing. We are a happening, a continuous, dynamic flow of energy. So let me ask you, are you a noun or are you a verb?